Hi, this is Scott Holstad, poet, writer, author, and trying to make a new video for the first time in a while. And I'm doing this in celebration of and support of the release day for my new book, which was released today, July 1st, 2026. And I did a video recently in which I unboxed it. It's called "Where Do We Go From Here?" And the subtitle I like doesn't always appear everywhere, but that's all right. The subtitle is "Assorted Trip Poems for Future Past Generations." And yes, it's meant to be that odd because, well, that's sort of my kind of perspective, humor, etc. And the book is similar in some ways from my book that came out a little over 9 months ago, and you may have seen some videos or read some things. It was Surviving Immortality Again. Both books released, published by Alien Buddha Press, available in paperback on Amazon, both $12.99, and this one is actually bigger. And dimensions are actually both about the same size, both about 90 poems, both about 135, 140 pages. And I have a terrible habit of rambling incessantly, as many people know. And I don't want this video to be too super long, but I want to tell you a little bit about what I was trying to do with last year's book, Surviving Immortality Again. Like many of my books, I've been doing this a long time, and I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of books published over the years, and or appear in many as a contributor, collaborator, co-writer, co-author. Many are thematically or stylistically unified. I think that's pretty common. And I wanted my book last year to be sort of a concept book, sort of a modern day Promethean tale of woe, I suppose. This one is different, and it is probably one in which they would advise you not to try and put out a collection like this, because this is actually not really thematically or stylistically unified like you would expect. Been doing this a long time. I actually have been able to find credits of mine, national credits of mine, online, dating back to 1986, 40 years. My first poetry collections came out in 1991, both here and in the U.S. and internationally, multiple ones in that year. And so basically, a lot of people who have been reading my stuff over the past few years have never seen my early stuff. I have a lot of books that are out of print, and a lot of people might be surprised at how many of my themes, forms, styles, etc. have really differed over the years, and how I've done a lot of different things. A lot of people may think of me as a certain type of poet, or a poet that is a small press poet or experimental poet, or I also actually publish a lot of fiction and nonfiction essays, do some genre stuff, horror stuff, and so I think that there are a lot of people who might be surprised to find, if they were able to go back, there's more diversity there than they may know. So this book, I wrote that I just want to sort of give an overview without this being, a best of or anything like that at all. I mean, most of these are pretty new, so it's not best of, although there are some older ones in here. And I just want to show that, there's narrative, confessional, experimental, political, raunchy, gritty, beat, mainstream, introspective. What you'll find is a lot less violence than you may have seen in some recent works. That may surprise some people. A lot more narratives. In fact, I have a section of 15 prose poems, which may surprise some people too, hopefully in a good way. So now that I've sort of blathered on about that, I'm going to say thank you to Red, and thank you to Alien Buddha Press, and thank you to the editors and publishers of the 50 publications that are listed in the acknowledgement section. If I missed any, I'm sorry. And everyone else who's published and supported and me in recent years and over my career. I'm going to I'm going to just kind of read a sampling of ideally a half dozen poems. One is very, very short. A couple maybe a little experimental. A couple are going to be, well, I think you'll hear. I may have to resort to putting on my reading glasses, sadly, but I'll try to make a go of it without first. And I'm going to read the first poem in the book. It's called Varmints and the Dancing Steel-Toed Ducks. This would be really, really pretty typical of a lot of my early work in the early to mid 90s. I was compared, rightly or not, especially internationally, to Bukowski, who I was fortunate enough to get to know a bit and has some fond memories while he was still alive. But I didn't set out to try and imitate Bukowski, but reviewers. Anyway, Varmints and the Dancing Steel-Toed Ducks. Glanced up from my book only to see a little brown spot moving on my cream-colored wall. And upon closer inspection, I realized it was yet another one of my regular uninvited house guests, or maybe that visitors. And I wondered how the hell this one appeared, since I stopped up the sink, set out traps, manned the sentry post at the kitchen counter of my slum hovel shack. I often wonder whose ancestors they are, and I think of Kafka every time I go on a killing spree. In fact, I admit to sometimes even feeling a twinge of guilt, like when I killed 42 of them just last Saturday morning alone. I snapped back to reality when I noticed a brown spot making a track across the surface of my cream-colored wall, so I grabbed my steel-toed dock boot on the floor beside me while rising to move in for the kill. But I guess it sensed my approach because it stopped to play dead. They seem to think they'll fool us, but Darwin knows better. And I briefly hesitated before smashing the living shit out of it. And as I later cleaned the remnants of its guts off the wall, I thought again of poor Gregor and was grateful that they just don't get as big as that. The next one I'm going to read is titled First Street Blues. So it's 11 p.m. and we're watching the nightly news when we hear an explosion and the earth thunders and we shake more than we did during the quake, and shouts are heard out in the street to the effect of, "Get out, get away, run." So what the hell? We went running outside ourselves, but see now there are all kinds of muggings, carjackings, drive-bys, murders happening in our neighborhood. And the fucking police choppers camp out constantly over our pad, but this was a serious new one. A meth lab had blown up just 3 doors down from us, and there were 6 fire trucks and 12 police cars and hundreds of local spectators. And as they taped off the block with their garish yellow police tape, we watched the white fumes drifting in the air. And she looked over and said to me, "You know, it's pretty fucking scary to think that 9th grade dropouts are playing with enough lethal chemicals to level the entire damn city block." I've been doing a lot of short form poems, a lot of short form experimental poems, some very, very, very short, like 1 and 2 word poems. This isn't quite that short. This is called Lynch Mob Confusion. They say William Pierce's diary turned out to be too woke for frozen trad fundy death squads. This next one is titled Living High on Wilshire Boulevard. I used to brag about living in the 34 high-rise on Wilshire Boulevard out in Los Angeles. Call me stupid, but it turned out there were reasons I couldn't afford to live in the Beverly Wilshire, made famous by Julia Roberts and Pretty Woman. And I have stories, and couldn't afford it. Yeah. And why I could afford my high-rise heading downtown past the Mid-Wilshire district. Seems I was living in 18th Street gang territory, something most sane people would have advised against. Food for some other poems, perhaps. But Wilshire's a cool cat street with a real long drag and even a longer history. John Fonte can tell you all about it. I dug the architecture, atmosphere, Art Deco, Wiltern Theater, and more. I also loved the eclectic restaurants throughout the area, the clubs. Hell, even the churches had soul, and some of those old shuttered buildings just had class. Tell me you don't remember Marilyn Monroe and the Coconut Grove, just down the street from me. Don Johnson of Miami Vice fame made a movie in my building. The producers bribed me to loan them my apartment with an iconic balcony and Nora-like view for a week. They put me up in the Beverly Hilton, where I slummed it by sipping wheat rum drinks at Trader Vic's and pretending like I belonged. The view was best from the roof, where you could see all of LA, and especially the Hollywood sign. If you couldn't park in the underground garage, though, you basically need an Uzi and a Rottweiler to get from car to building. But we always claimed that was just part of the magic. Some parts of the neighborhood have gone to hell, while others have undergone some renovation. However, I moved across the country to Tennessee, Georgia, North Carolina. But I miss Wilshire, Koreatown, the Mid-Wilshire and Fairfax districts, and frankly, the whole damn cocky attitude it engendered inside you. I guess that was the end of my high-rise LA living. Okay, just two more videos, longer than preferred, but not too bad for me. This is titled Revisiting Proponents of Future Shock X. It was my only time to gawk like that. The FDA had ruled otherwise, you see. That old Yiddish woman came up to me again and said, Mamushka, there'll still be no peace talks in the homeland. So I bought her a new beer, and I shined her shoes up and revisited lovely sunshine and ginger snaps and bombs are still so gulch, don't you think? But my darling, your breasts seem a bit too heavy for your own good, though natural does seem best. But we also roast our own coffee here in the Pentagon. Screwdrivers only cost $99 each now. What is called a big break? Yeah, you know, screw the taxpayers. I hate smoke. I've only had 16 cigarettes today. And why do people become visionaries after they die? And how does that work out besides, I mean, where are the writers anyway? See, this ghost man came in, his skin was peeling, his flesh rotting, bones glaring at me, squeaky clean though. I once vacationed on good old 3 Mile Island in the 70s, while meeting 3-headed frogs at Oak Ridge in the 80s. But my friend at Chernobyl beat me on those, and I thought she would glow because she had you right. But I do now know people don't glow, yes. It is a fact. But we don't quite worry about the MPT as much anymore because it's all about space, right? So what's the doctrine for that war playground? Anyway, let's look at it rationally, folks. The future still looks bright indeedy. Flashbang. And the last one, start with the first one, ending with the last one. The last one's kind of a crazy little gem, as I like to think of it. Experimental chaos. I use a lot of the cut-up technique, found poetry, fragments. Bill Burroughs was a big influence on me, literally. This isn't entirely cut up. I have many others in here and others that are, but I take some liberties. Who needs friends when you go anyways, yeah? We were back in Arizona again, have really come to love the uniforms, driving at friends and shooing silly family away, and damn, we did dinner one blighted night, though it elevated over Camel Dick Boulevard, rotating right and righter still till we could barely contain our disdain for the bankrupt uber-rich barking at each other. A rotund rutabaga, large man, now that I recall, got up from his throne, staggered so pointedly and dramatically toward the next picnic table, and yelled Epstein before crashing face first onto that table, crushing it in new dipshit-addled ways while grunting like a skewered porpoise. Is it me? I asked the hovering busboy. Or should someone shut him the fuck up, you know? The screams and wails wrecked the wall fabrics, while apparently dude was turning 49 levels of hell shades of purple, raining on our damn parade, but while tykes fanned him with the tablets grafted to their arms, as is the case for all good patriotic citizens, of course. Apparently someone had thought to find a rotary phone. Thank the gods they still make phones, so I've heard vicious rumors our devices used to be, or maybe contained, verbal communication capabilities. A goddamn vicious lie of those vile Antifa fascists. Hair, dear, Lear, is thankfully not rightfully sentenced to death for uncomfortable or domestic terrorism. But a medical jeep showed up, and some burly uniformed waiters dragged the rotund eggplant out to be taken for care. And the maitre d' was making the rounds, anxiously assuring anxious last-time patrons of the stability of all. I felt like screaming, "Bill Burrows, where are you, man? We need you now more than ever." But calmed down, knowing he was in the Untergarten, shooting up like the old days and sending me cutely stamped holiday cards like he used to. Such a sweet man. Never mind the William Tell thingies. But it also occurred to me that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't what Vinny, the chef/owner of this $9,000 per plate foodie joint, would be wanting, and I felt briefly bad and sought out the frothy maitre d' to let him know the food was damn spectacular, especially poached, and the putrid scene we'd been forced to endure without regurgitating at great personal pain and discomfort would in no way keep us from returning and trying whatever food just killed that poor SOB. And the look in the eyes of that old wigged out maitre d' as he stared at me wordlessly was thanks enough for me. Me content in the satisfaction of knowing I had just committed my good deed for the second quarter, and the investors would no doubt recognize and reward me with a generous bonus. Funny thing though, I vaguely recalled that many moons ago, a few years at least, I'd always told myself that I couldn't go like Joan B. when it was finally my time, that if I couldn't, that I'd want to be locked in a passionate embrace with a tawdry, nubile person, but this here man thing actually could have chosen a much worse way, I gotta say. What a fucking true patriot. And there ends my notoriously odd sense of dark humor and experimentation with nothing serious, whatever, to be made from that. The book, again, is Where Do We Go From Here? Where Do We Go From Here? Assorted trip poems for future past generations. It's available on Amazon in paperback. It's 138 pages. It's $12.99. Feel free to order away. And feel free to look into other works of mine if you're interested. You know, I am fortunate enough to work hard and get a few things published here and there. So you can just do a search for my name, Scott Holstad, or Scott C. Holstad. And sometimes you can append after author, poet, writer, and you'll be a little shocked at the number and types of search results. If you're interested, my website's also hankrules2011.com. Doing this in support of the book, and also ideally on behalf of Alien Buddha Press. So thanks again to Red and the good people affiliated with that publishing company. My books wind up on the shelves of the Library of Congress at Poets House and other libraries, and this one likely will too. So even if you don't buy it, please buy it. If you use the WorldCat database, if you have access to libraries, a number of my collections can be loaned from various libraries. I'm going to stop now because I'm babbling like I typically do. It's a bad habit, and I know that, and I'm sorry. But it's been exciting, and I'm finishing this on release day, July 1st, still barely. And it's exciting, and feel free to contact me with questions or comments. I'm everywhere. It's impossible not to find me on social media or Goodreads or Library Thing or Open Library or LinkedIn or X and Instagram and blah 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 blah. My website, there's forms there. You can contact me if you want. The worst thing for me is winding up these videos. I'm just going to do so brutally now with apologies. Thanks to any and all who made it through this video. Thanks to any and all who are supporters or fans or not tremendous detractors. And, feedback's welcome. And here's to, an ever-improving second half of 2026 for all. Sound good? Yeah. Ciao.